Greetings, dear viewers. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Christina. I'm an astrologer, and you are watching the Zenith Glow Astrology channel. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome, welcome. We are going to discuss something slightly offbeat, but not too offbeat. There is not necessarily a prominent astrological alignment happening this week. Well, depending on how you consider astrological alignments, there's not a traditional astrological alignment happening this week, but we do have a lot of energy, and I wanted to kind of do like a little energy check-in and just see what's happening. I know that personally, I've been feeling a lot of energy, a lot of energy. And actually, last week in particular was very challenging for me. How did it go for you? We had the new moon in Libra recently, and new moons do tend to bring up the shadow. And sure enough, my shadow showed up right on time and did a lot of integration this last week. It was really healing and really lovely, but also very difficult. And very recently, I actually felt an energy shift. And I can also feel an amplification of energy coming in. And I know that there are some very specific reasons why that is happening. So I thought I would do a little video. It's probably not going to be too long, famous last words, just to discuss what's happening. So if this interests you, welcome. Thank you for being here. If it doesn't interest you, see you later. So what do we have going on right now that is prominent? Well, we are between moons. Okay, so we had the Libra new moon last week, and then we will have the Taurus full supermoon next week. But the most significant thing that is happening this week, which I and many other people have spoken about, is that 3i Atlas will be reaching its perihelion on October 30th. So that's the thing that's kind of astrological depending on how you look at it. I guess we could say it's astrological. It's definitely impacting us, however you want to think about it. So 3i Atlas is an interstellar object. We don't know if it's a comet. We don't know what it is. I did a video on 3i Atlas a few weeks ago. I will link to that at the end of this video if you want to check it out and get a little more information on my read on this particular astronomical body. It is something special, and I know that there's a lot of people that are kind of dooming and glooming it energy wise, but I really, really, really strongly don't feel that that's what's happening. Maybe you disagree with me. That is, your prerogative, but that's not the energy I'm getting from this at all. It is interesting as well because we have lots of comets that are accompanying 3i Atlas at this time. They've been here, they didn't just show up recently, but I do think that this week in particular is special because it represents a crescendo of the energies that have been building for several months, actually, because 3i Atlas showed up back in July. So we've been undergoing a process, a shadow integration process, an alchemical process, each of us, in our own unique way. We've been doing this work, and we are now coming to the climax of the work. So that's a big deal. That's going to bring a lot of energy. It's going to bring intensity. I think that it's a beautiful thing. I think we're going to experience some release, some transcendence, some kind of breakthrough. But if you haven't quite hit that shift yet, it's going to get more intense. It's going to feel more pressurizing. There's going to be more friction going on. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, just because, if you're not aware that this is happening, it can be a little bit frustrating and it can be a little bit maddening at times. And you might be wondering what in the world is going on? Why are people being like this? Why am I being like this? You might be noticing anomalies in your day to day, different things going on in your body, sleep patterns. You might be forgetting where you put things or experiencing shifts in perception that you're not used to, having songs playing in your head that you don't usually have happening, hearing ringing in your ears. There's all kinds of different ways that this can show up, but just know that these are all significators, whatever that word is. They're all signifying an energy shift, a timeline shift. You are changing, right? You are upgrading, you are shifting in your energy. So your experience of reality is also shifting. And sometimes that can show up in really strange ways. So just know that it's normal, and also know that it's a good thing, even if it drives you a little bit nuts in the moment when it happens. Um, so yeah, there's a lot going on. But let's see. The first thing, what is the first thing I want to talk about? We already mentioned Three Eye Atlas. So the other thing that's going on this week is we have the big portal happening. And it's a big portal because there's a confluence of holidays and events that are conjoined in one weekend. Okay, so we have Halloween on October 31st. This coincides with Samhain. And then we also have All Saints' Day, which is happening pretty much at the same time as the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos. So all of these holidays and events are kind of wrapped into one. Now, why does that matter? Why do holidays matter? Well, because collectively, when we all put our energy and our focus into one thing, even if it's like four different events that are being focused upon by the collective, I mean, it's still all happening within one window of time, right? Uh, we create a lot of energy when we do that. That is harnessed energy being focused in a specific direction. And our consciousness, our perception is what influences reality, as we know through, the quantum lens of looking at reality. That's how it works, right? That's when the particle, or excuse me, when the wave collapses into a particle, and that's when we can actually manifest. So cool, right? Unless you are focusing your energy in places that you don't want to manifest. And that's actually kind of the point of everything that's been going on with Three Eye Atlas and with all these comets. So, to that end, I decided to do a little tarot reading on the comets specifically because I've already done that for Three Eye Atlas and everybody's already talked about Three Eye Atlas a lot. So you can get plenty of information on that. Obviously, use your discernment, tune into your own inner compass to get direction on that. And I strongly suggest whatever you believe, don't give in to any kind of fear mongering because, again, your consciousness is a precious commodity. Where do you want to put your focus? Where do you want to put your emotions and your energy? Just something to think about. But the comets are also significant. Now, I know that I've talked about comets before, not super in depth, but I have mentioned that they do hold feminine energy, which may or may not surprise you. Comets astrologically hold feminine energy. Why is it feminine? Well, because they tend to bring up the darkness, right? Comets typically are very cold. They come from the deep recesses of space. They bring in this kind of cold light energy. It's a very yin kind of vibe. And so what they do is they bring up the shadow. Okay. Now, astrologically, historically, comets are seen as like heralders of catastrophe and calamity, and they signify all these negative things. I personally think that's because that's where consciousness was at with humanity during those ancient times. And also, once again, they bring up the shadow. So shadow work is a scary thing. It can be a difficult thing. And as well, if you are repressing the shadow, and I suspect that some of our ancestors may not have been attuned to doing shadow work, it will often manifest outside of ourselves through circumstances and through other people and confrontation in one way or another because the shadow wants to be acknowledged, the shadow wants to be integrated. That is how we achieve wholeness. And until the shadow is acknowledged, it will continue to act out, literally acting outside of you, begging to be mirrored, begging to be, acknowledged or noticed as your shadow. So again, that can manifest in a myriad of ways. And I think historically, maybe that brought about some not so fun circumstances. And I'm sure there's more to comets, and it doesn't really matter. I don't really want to get into it right now. So feel free to go research that for yourself if you want to. But for today's purposes, I did a reading on the comets that are happening right now in our solar system, kind of bombarding us, surrounding Earth at this time, which is very significant, right? Things don't just happen. There's no accidents. This is happening for a reason. So let's take a look at what my little tarot reading pulled up. This is what I want to talk about. And I just did this on my own, not doing like a live reading. Sorry, folks. Um, so we have several messages coming through here, but the most prominent message is this center card, which is oh my gosh, I totally forgot what the name of that is. It's basically the bloody rose. Sorry, I'm going to pull it up because I can't remember what the Latin term for it is. Let's see, I can see it larger on my phone. There we go. Okay, so it's the red and white rose, Floss sapientum. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that. Floss sapientum, the red and white rose. Now, this is an alchemy card, and it is all about the coexistence of red and white when we are working in our alchemical laboratory. So it's like you're working with one element and another one shows up, and it's this vibrant blood red kind of energy. It's vigor, it's passion, it's intensity. And instead of the red and the white mixing to make pink, they both stand as these two separate entities that are coexisting and flowing together, yet not actually like diluting their energy, if that makes sense. So, what does that actually mean, though, in like a real world context? Well, I'll tell you what it means for our purposes for where we're at right now as a collective and why these comets are showing up. So, what we have is the convergence of spirit and matter happening right now. And of course, this is something that's always there. It's just that this is what's being brought up from the shadow right now to be acknowledged and integrated and to help us to heal collectively. It's a theme that we need to have addressed, basically, that's ready to be addressed by those who are at that level of consciousness that are ready to integrate this. And so the comets are actually giving us support in doing this. So again, the convergence of spirit and matter. And I've talked about this before. It's really about grounding our spirituality into the earth, into physical matter, into here and now. It's about recognizing the importance of pain and shadow and matter and darkness and earth and the physical things, the things that we typically tend to disassociate from the spiritual and love and light and these really high frequency concepts that we're always researching and leaning into and reaching for as we do or as we undergo our spiritual journey, right? Because we kind of started from the matter stuff and we were unconscious within that, and then we learned about this little spark of light, and then we started reaching for that spark and we started cultivating it within ourselves and trying to raise our frequency. And so many of us on the spiritual path are always trying to go higher and higher and higher and higher, which isn't a bad thing. It's not, none of this is bad. And I'm not judging it. And I'm not saying, it's wrong to do that within your process. It's part of the process. It's part of what we do. We are cultivating the white, right? From the white and the red rose. But eventually we get to a phase in our spiritual evolution where we begin to realize that the dichotomy between spirit and matter is an illusion, right? Initially we believe that we have to transcend earth and to transcend matter and to transcend lower density and darkness and evil and all the stuff that exists here, right? So we're reaching higher, we're trying to go higher, but what we are being shown, or at least my interpretation of this, and again, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. My interpretation of this is that the comets are helping us to recognize, to shift our perception and our awareness, to recognize that the way out is through, so to speak. It is not to transcend earthly matters. It is not to transcend all of those things. And when I say transcend, I actually mean bypass, but it is actually to go deeper into them, right? We have to actually go deeper into the physical. We have to embrace our bodies. We have to go deeper into ourselves. That's another thing is we are often, and when I say we, I am completely talking about myself here, folks, because I have been there, I have done that. Doing it now, like I do it all the time, right? And I always forget. It's so easy to forget when you're in this like linear experience of time, right? Because suddenly I can't remember what I ate for dinner yesterday. You know what I mean? Like it's really easy to forget things when you're always on this track of moving forward because you're experiencing time in that way. So, once again, uh, it's calling us to go deeper within ourselves and to recognize that these concepts are not separate. You don't have to reach outside of yourself to get the answers that you seek. You don't have to look for something outside of yourself to create the thing that you want to create or to shift the way that you want to shift. And that is actually a very important component of what these comets are bringing up. So, we're talking about the physical body and we're talking about the self within the body, and we're talking about matter and earth as part of this recognition that, spirit and matter are not mutually exclusive, right? You don't go outside of yourself to find God. You go within to find God, right? Uh, so that's part of it. But to get even more specific, which we can see through the other cards that are showing up in this reading, it's not just about recognizing, earthly stuff. It's literally about abundance. It's literally about money. It's about freedom, okay? In our earthly existence, money is part of the paradigm. Okay, money is part of existence itself. And so I am talking about abundance, but abundance comes in a lot of different forms. And money is one of them. And I think as spiritual people, we often shy away from money because consciously or unconsciously, we hold uh, programs around that, right? Negative programming around that. Money is evil. We've been told since we were little that money is the root of all evil, right? So we carry these programs within us. And then when we get older, we have, because, we are good hearted spiritual beings, we don't want to be evil, right? So we shy away from that. We push it away, consciously or unconsciously. And then the next thing you know, you're living as an adult, suffering with scarcity, experiencing lack, having difficulty cultivating physical and financial stability in your life. Your spiritual life is very rich, but your material life is very poor, right? And I'm not saying this applies to everyone, I'm just speaking generally. This is a common denominator in the spiritual community. And yet, what we are called to do here as we create new earth, right? We're not transcending, we're not bypassing earth. We are creating new earth, okay? New earth is going to be abundant. It is abundant. It's already there, right? It's already there. We just have to tap into it. Um, it is abundant. So we are called to recognize that this is part of it, right? It's not that we just like leave our bodies and we don't need all this material stuff anymore. It's actually about embracing our bodies, embracing physical reality, embracing what it feels like to be comfortable. And that's really what this freedom card is about in this reading. Because in our material reality, part of freedom comes through financial freedom. When you have your financial and physical security needs met, you have the freedom to expand. you have more time, you have peace of mind, you have resources that empower you to go after the things that you want and to expand into different areas of life experience, right? That's part of the freedom. And so, once again, we are called to go inward. We have this solitude card. It's not the illusion that we've been sold. And of course, I'm sure that many of you know this, but again, it's easy to forget. It's easy to forget. And it's one thing to know it up here and to feel it here, right? So that's part of what the work is that we're doing and that the comets are supporting us with, this energy, going into the shadow selves and examining those programs and examining, where do I separate myself from this? How am I actually creating lack? How am I creating insecurity? How am I creating fear and doubt in my reality? Because at the end of the day, through that quantum lens of reality, everything that you experience in your life is just a mirror of yourself, right? Because that's how you are collapsing the waveform based on what you are observing and what you are perceiving. So if you are perceiving lack, if you are perceiving waiting, if you are perceiving doubt, loneliness, whatever, those are the things that you are going to manifest, right? And that's why in manifestation courses and law of attraction stuff, they always say that you got to kind of like fake it till you make it. Imagine it as if it is real. Feel it and experience it as if it is real, right? And that's true. That's not like, not knocking that stuff. It's a true thing. But again, we're being called to go inward and look, because it's not enough to just do the practices without addressing the deeper layers that are originating those thought patterns to begin with, right? Those perceptions that are causing us to manifest the way that we have been. And so we have this solitude card, which is all about islands, and it's about going into yourself to recognize how you have been creating your reality and also to tap into your power, right? Because maybe you've created a reality that you're not totally satisfied with, or you feel blocked from changing, from getting out of the stagnation, from, cultivating something different than what you've experienced before. At the same time, you are empowered because you created that. You can also change it, right? And it's all about changing yourself. And again, that's one of the illusions that we're sold, is that we have to go outside of ourselves to change reality, but it's the opposite. You can take action, that's part of it, but you have to go inward first. So we have this creativity card, and that is what this card is all about. It's all about going into your inner reserves of fire and passion, right? Fire is a creative force, it's a creative energy. And it's about tapping into joy and creative energy. I actually read this card when I did the reading. I read the book, and I love what it says in there about this, because in the card, we have someone who's painting with fire, which is pretty cool. But we often have this idea that creating is something specifically artistic, right? Like, oh, I have to sit down and draw, or I'm going to paint, or I'm going to knit something, or I don't know, I'm going to craft something with my hands. We often think of it in that way. And of course, that is an expression of creativity, but creativity is an energy. It's not necessarily what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. It's the intention that you're bringing to the activity. And that's what this card talks about. So you can create when you're cleaning, right? You're creating a space that is more harmonious to you, more in alignment. You can create when you're cooking. You can create when you're out on a walk. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Again, it's the energy you bring to it. And this is all about tapping into that energy. And again, that passion, and the whole point of it, it doesn't matter if you are out playing frisbee with your friends, or if you're reading a book, or, if you're painting, or if you're vacuuming your living room. It's all about what brings you joy. What brings you joy? Because the other thing is, we all have a tendency in this reality to get way too serious. And again, I am talking about myself first and foremost. I know that I am not on path when I get too serious because that's not why I'm here. That's not my purpose, right? But part of the programming that we are born into, part of the nature of reality, and part of just the heaviness that we're always immersed in, it kind of pulls us into that seriousness, right? That rigidity. And then we start to feel confined, and then we start to believe that there are only certain linear ways of doing things. So, this energy is all about tapping in to the wild heart and contacting your passion and getting in touch with your fire and finding that creative spark within you, whatever it is. And then you do that thing with joy, you do that thing with passion. And that is how you cultivate your freedom. It really is. And again, it's not necessarily instantaneous. Maybe it is for some people. Who's to say? I'm not going to set parameters on what's possible in reality, and I'm certainly not going to limit myself to those parameters. So, that is really what this is about. And then again, through the tarot cards, we can see this is further emphasized. So, these comets are bringing a brand new beginning. We have the Fool helping us to cultivate faith in what is possible and bringing lightness and childlike wonder to our experience, right? Because again, seriousness, we're always pulled into seriousness. We have two serious cards that came out here. We have the Five of Cups, and then we have the Five of Pentacles. Those are two very difficult cards in the tarot. The Five of Cups is all about being stuck in the past emotionally, just drawn into that seriousness, drawn into that sadness, and always having a propensity to look at things as glass half empty. So it's about pessimism, and it's about protecting yourself because you've been hurt in the past. And it's really wallowing. This card is a lot about wallowing. And again, there's no judgment because we all do this in our own ways. It is in some ways the way that our brain is wired, but you can always rewire your brain. And it is also the nature of our reality. We are constantly conditioned to be this way. So we've got a lot, that we're working against. So again, there's no judgment with this. It's about seeing yourself, loving yourself, accepting yourself where you're at, and then loving yourself out of those patterns, right? Like, hey, I can get out of this. I want to change it. I deserve it. I'm going to do it. And so we see that between these two cards, and so we also have the Five of Pentacles, which is about ill health, it's about scarcity, it's about being locked out of the things that will give you comfort, security, vitality, well being, right? That can be relationships, it can be anything that is making you feel like you don't have enough, right? Like you're wanting something and you're missing something. So that card's all about being locked out of it. And then the Five of Cups is all about being stuck in negative emotion. In between these cards, we have the Star, which is about healing and it's about finding relief after shock, trauma, upset, difficult situations. And it's about wishes coming true, wishes being fulfilled. So we have hope, we have renewal. And this comes at the end of this, we have our third major arcana card in this spread, which is the Hanged Man, ruled by Neptune, unconditional love. But it is ultimately about shifting your perception. We get put into a state of stasis, of stagnancy, of waiting, because it forces us to turn upside down, to shift our perception, right? So you might have been feeling kind of stagnant lately, or maybe not so lately. Maybe it's been going on this whole year. So you might be feeling some of these blocks, right? Like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to manifest and it's just not working, or it's happening a little bit, but it's not going the way I really want it to. Just know that there is a purpose to these things. And once again, alchemy, right? When we experience tension like that, it puts us in a state of catalytic conversion. All right. That tension, that friction is what gives us the opportunity to shift, to change, to charge in a different way. It's not easy, but it is helpful in the end, in the long run. And that's what these comets have been doing, okay, along with 3i Atlas, right? So that is the energy that is all coming to a head this week. Let's go ahead and take away this picture now. Excuse me. So, thinking about this week, 3i Atlas will come to its perihelion on October 30th. That means that it's going to be the closest to the sun that it will be as it moves through our solar system, right? And it's been in alignment with our ecliptic. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, I need to take a sip of water here. Yeah. So it's been in alignment with our ecliptic, and it has been moving closer to the sun. As it moves closer to the sun, it actually builds in energy, okay? When it gets close to the sun from a symbolic perspective, and I think also from a literal perspective, that is when we experience breakthrough and illumination. And again, think about that Hanged Man card. That's what this is about. We have been in a period of intentional, forced rest, and we've been suspended, right? We haven't been able to quite get from point A to point B as much as we try. So this week represents a culmination, a climax, a breakthrough. It starts with 3i Atlas, Perihelion. Simultaneously, we have all these comets. They are providing us with all of this energy that I just talked about. If you've been feeling heaviness, if you've been going through shadow work, especially since the new moon in Libra, know that that's normal and that it's part of the process, okay? And then this weekend, happening concurrent with this 3i Atlas energy, we have this huge portal opening, okay? So this is not an accident, folks. And again, this is partly why I don't believe that this stuff is nefarious, right? As much as other people out in the collective have been really trying to sell us that story that there's some kind of a takeover or that it's a negative influence, it's something bad or evil or whatever. Who cares? I just don't feel that. I think that that's a hijacking of consciousness. Once again, consciousness is a precious commodity. So you choose where you put your consciousness and you go into your heart and you feel what is true for you. You observe your own life and your own experience and your own synchronicity and however your higher guidance system talks to you. And you see what feels true and resonant for you, whether that aligns with what I'm saying or not. But what I am saying and what I believe is that this is benevolent. This is here to help us, okay? Because we've all been stuck in this programming for a very long time. And for those of us who are on the spiritual path, we have really important work to do, okay? Our work is nowhere near done yet. There's a lot coming down the road. And we're going to take all the transformation that we've undergone this year from the year of the wood snake, all this steady growth and shedding and opening to transformation. And we're going to move into the energy of the fire horse next year. Horses, freedom, fire, passion, energy. Do you see this in the cards I just showed you, right? Freedom and fire. So we're going to be implementing those things. We're going to take the transformation that's happened on an internal level and we're going to externalize it through action and manifestation. But we need to clear these old programs before we can do that. And each of us needs to be empowered on our journey, whatever that means to us. But in this reality, part of empowerment comes from physical security. And again, we have another programming running in our unconscious that is telling us that in order to be spiritual, we have to move away from matter, from materiality, from the physical. And that's just not true. The two are not mutually exclusive. They are one. Everything is one. Okay? You don't look outside of yourself, you go within to find God. And it is all part of the same thing, right? So it is actually by grounding down that we are going to go up or advance upward or spiral in our ascension, in our consciousness, and in what we are able to accomplish through our purpose, which is what we're doing now, right? We are stepping more fully into alignment and into our purpose, and we are getting so much spiritual support in doing that. And this week represents a culmination in this energy. It represents the point of breakthrough. So let yourself feel it, let yourself do the work, let yourself open and receive. And then also, we've got that portal this weekend. So this happens every year, right? We have this Halloween, Samhain, All Saints Day, Dia de los Muertos thing going on. It's a big portal. It's a time when the veil is thin. And every year, we are given an opportunity to connect with our deceased loved ones and our ancestors through this portal. So, if that's something you want to do, that's still true this year. And one thing I highly recommend doing is getting out photos of your deceased loved ones and those you want to connect with and putting them out. Put them out where you can see them this week. I guarantee you will receive connection if that's what you want. But also just know that the veil is thin in general. So this is a time when we can really connect spiritually, where we can receive illumination and insight. And where manifestations are going to be given a boost. But the important thing to know, this is the most important thing I'm going to say to you this entire video, and then we're going to wrap up. Not to overhype it or anything, but the most important thing to know is that all you have to do to take advantage of this energy and to receive what's on offer is exactly that. Just receive it. You don't have to force anything. You don't have to push anything. You simply have to be. Think about the hanged man. All you have to do is suspend yourself and open your heart and receive in order to do that. Okay? So don't worry about, putting your nose to the grindstone or trying to take control of the situation or trying to focus on this or that or whatever. Feel into your heart, find your own rhythm, go with your own flow, relax and surrender, because what you have been manifesting, what you have been working for is about to reveal itself. It is about to come into fruition. This is the point of breakthrough. This is where we go from one timeline to another. We have all been working for this. It is very exciting. It's going to be different for everyone. Every single person is on their own journey. So, no blanket statements here. I'm just saying that in general, this is the vibe, this is the energy. So, I hope that you all have a beautiful week. I hope that you can connect spiritually. I hope that you get the most of this energy. I hope that you are birthed into a beautiful new beginning, that you get to experience freedom and sovereignty, your own authentic, creative soul signature. And I hope you're enlivened with passion and creativity. And I am sending you all so much love. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video. Please hit the notification bell. And I will catch you all in the next video. Thanks so much for being here. Bye, folks.